G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR. For today's video, we're going to take a look at someone who I think is a bit of a forgotten man. We say that he's only been playing for 2 seasons, but with the emergence of Matty Rowell, this man, Sam Walsh, I think has been forgotten about a little bit. We know what his Supercoach pedigree is like, had a great first 2 seasons in the AFL system, and he's someone who I think may be able to take that next step. So we all know that he was selected with number 1 in the draft. His average ranking points, have a look at this. In the TAC Cup, 158 points, and then 142 points in the National Champs. And I've got a quote there by Champion Data, one of the most reliable ball winners ever seen in the game. So let's take a look at some more numbers in regards to Sammy Walsh. So he had a wonderful debut year back in 2019, played all 22 games, a really healthy average for a first year player, 86.9. We can see there is contested possessions, wasn't too bad, ranked 3rd at Carlton behind Cripps and Curnow, and he averaged 15.7 uncontested possessions, which ranked number 1 at Carlton. So as I said, for a first year player, really impressive, and actually broke the record for the most disposals for a first year player since Champion Data started recording. In 2020, played all 17 games again, so that shows in a very small sample of 2 years that he's pretty durable so far. He increased his average by 14.2 points, and again ranked 3rd at Carlton behind those 2 blokes again for contested possessions, and again ranked 1st for uncontested possessions. And he was a bit of a point of difference, only selected in 5.2% of sides. So let's take a look at his 2020 scoring breakdown. Now, an average of 75.2 from rounds 1 to 5 certainly didn't set the world on fire. I'm sure that he would have been pretty disappointed with that sort of return from someone that sets themselves really high standards like Sam does. And we could have been forgiven also for thinking, pardon the pun, that this bloke had a case of the second year blues. We don't know what COVID was doing to players, and this data from the first 5 rounds was really hard to analyse, to be honest. So we'll look at the next set of data, round 6 to 12, and look at that average of 106. So a huge improvement from rounds 1 to 5, hit the ton 4 out of those 6 games. But this is what really excites me. And when we're looking at the data from the previous year, I think it's really important to look at how they ended the season, particularly after the bye. And look at some of these scores here, 113, 132, massive 161, and then a 119 to end the season. Now, what was the reason for this? Well, he did start to spend more time playing as an inside midfielder. The great thing about Sammy Walsh, from a coach's point of view, is the fact that he can play on the outside and he can also play really well on the inside. And in the last 5 rounds, they actually put him as the 8th highest averaging midfielder for Supercoach points. Now, the big question that we need to ask ourselves is Sammy Walsh going to play as an inside midfielder in 2021 or continue to play more of that outside role? Well, this is what Brent Stanton had to say.
It's really a credit to himself that he's basically able to play inside and outside. They're very rare to come across, and as we said, we want to play an attacking brand of football but be good in the contest at the same time. So he gives us that ability to be able to do a bit of both, and I have no doubt that he'll try and upskill himself a lot over pre-season on the inside, probably more than the outside, as we know that he's a running machine already, and he was when he come to us. And
so it certainly seems that Sammy Walsh is keen to spend more time on the inside, and what I loved about that was the fact that they think they'll start him on the inside and then maybe move to the outside. But more inside minutes means good things for Sammy Walsh. So why select him? Well, we know that he was a previous number 1 pick, loaded with talent, and we just expect that natural progression from someone like a Sam Walsh. He's great with durability, played every game possible so far, spent lots of time with Cripper last year, particularly in the hub. He's one of those blokes that picks other people's brains, asks lots of questions, and just ultra professional. He's an endurance beast who can just gut run, and I think given the fact that we're going back to those 20-minute quarters, that'll really suit someone like a Sam Walsh who's great with their endurance. He's courageous, very mentally tough. We saw what he did last year.
Sends Bogle his way towards full forward. Pepper had to turn around. What a fantastic bit of courage. Wow. Sam Walsh.
And I actually didn't realise this before I did some more research on Sam Walsh, but he was actually part of the leadership group in 2020. And for a second-year player, that says a fair bit about him. In my Supercoach Vernacular video, I did talk about the NDHP, the no dickhead policy. And we can see here from Nick Blakely, he is certainly not a DH.
Yeah, he's just nice to everyone. He doesn't matter where you come from or what you do. He's just a genuine good bloke and just a star on the footy field.
I think I can bring a great character to an AFL club and someone that's willing to work hard and learn from others around him and be really coachable. I'm pretty friendly and easygoing and like to get around all the boys.
as we heard as well, he's continuing to work on the inside game. He's building his strength, building his power. That body shape will change in the next year or two as well. And we know that he can play inside and outside as well. Now, like all players, we certainly do have some concerns about Sam Walsh. This is far from a guaranteed pick, and there certainly is some risk attached to it. So the first question, and we've mentioned this a few times, will he get enough time playing as an inside mid? Does he present enough value? He's not really cheap, so he's those mid 500s. He'll set you back more than a Paddy Cripps. I'm just not sure if there's a heap of value there. It's very risky also to select a breakout contender in the midfield, particularly at that price. And some people may argue that he did break out in the second half of last year, but that still is a bit of a risk for me. He comes with a pretty hefty price tag, as we've just said. We haven't seen a full season of elite scoring, so we looked at that breakdown. It was in the 70s and to that 106 and then to that 118. So is he going to start off in the 70s or even closer to 100 again next year? If that's the case, then he's not going to be a great pick to start the season. And the other thing I've got there is the Setterfield effect, and someone who I haven't really talked about, but he's someone else who I do rate at Carlton, maybe not from a Supercoach point of view, but I think that he's another great young inside midfielder that may take some more of that inside time. So look, am I going to select Sam Walsh next year? I'm going to really highly consider it. I'm going to track his pre-season. Hopefully we'll get to have a look at a few practice games and see some scores and where he starts his time. If he starts in the middle, spends a large chunk of time there in the pre-season, then I'm going to have a really, really close look. So let me know what you think about Sammy Walsh. Are you for? Are you against? What do you think? Let me know. And look forward to hearing in the comment section, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.